Mokio Bogbo and Ian. Greetings to everyone. I am making this video right now to continue our focus of this month on the Orisha, the Great Orisha Obatala, or also known as Orishanla, also known as Osa. Obatala is highly revered among the Orisha. He holds a special place. He is one who is highly favored by Olodumare, and he played a key role in the creation of human forms so that Olodumare could then breathe life into them. Obatala still carries out to this day part of the creation of humans, as it is said by the Yerba that he creates the human heads of children before they are born. So the head of a child is still to this day Obatala's creation. Obatala is a deity of purity, honesty, creativity, and wealth. His devotees are usually known to have wealth. The Yerba concept of wealth is not quite what our Western concept of wealth is. The Yoruba concept of wealth is like really having all that you need. It's not necessarily being surrounded with life's luxuries and tons of money, millions and billions of dollars. It is being comfortable with all the things that you need to successfully sustain life for yourself and your family. So when I say that Obatala is a deity of wealth and he brings wealth to his devotees, that doesn't mean you're always going to find Obatala devotees, just flowing in cash. But for the most part, Obatala devotees will be comfortable in life and will not have to really worry about whether or not they're able to provide for themselves and their families. Obatala will ensure that they have those provisions. Obatala is the chief of the white cloth. He is sometimes mistakenly referred to as a white deity, a white Orisha. And people think of that, some people think of that as his skin being white. One fallacy is in it's either the preface or introduction to the book Ifa Oracle. I forget the exact title of the book, but it's by Philip Neimark, who is white American, who did study Ifa. It was initiated to Ifa, and I'm not sure what other titles he may have, but in the introduction to his book, there's a statement that Obatala was white, and because Obatala is white, we shouldn't have a problem with information of Ifa coming from a white man. Personally, I don't really care where the information comes from, as long as it's accurate. Uh, that one piece of information about Obatala being of white skin is just not true. Obatala was in human form, was a dark-skinned man, just as really all the other Orisha were. I mean, after all, they, set foot on the earth in the land now known as Nigeria, and we know that the population there is generally black. Any white people in that area came from somewhere else. They did not, they're not native to that land. Well, let's face it, even if you came from generations, or let's say many generations of lighter skinned descendants, you spend time in Nigeria where the sun is beating down on you quite frequently, steadily, and strongly, your skin tone is going to become darker. I myself, when I went to Nigeria for my initiation in 1999, I got darker then, and my skin never returned to its former lighter complexion. I mean, I know I look pretty light now, but I'm nothing like I used to be. Not complaining at all. I love being baked in the African sun. It's a beautiful experience. And I feel that experience has heightened or strengthened the melanin within me, which made me darker. And when I made my second trip to Nigeria, I got a little darker still. And to me, it's just a natural way of connecting to Africa, strengthening the melanin within me, and returning to my roots. Anyway, that's a little off track from Obatala, but I just wanted to point out that Obatala is not of white skin. The whiteness of Obatala refers to the white cloth that he's associated with, and the white cloth is a symbol of his purity and his honesty, and that's something that exemplifies the character of Obatala and should also be reflected in the character of his devotees. Let's talk about taboos and preferred offerings for Obatala. I think most people are familiar with the taboo of palm wine. And the reason for that is during the creation of human beings, it's said that Obatala drank palm wine. He consumed a lot of it, became drunk, and as a result, he made mistakes in forming some of the human beings. And that is why we continue to have people who have certain deformities, whether they are physically visual or internal. Obatala, therefore, is said to be the father of people who have deformities or people who have handicaps of some sort, because it was his doing that created these people. So Obatala is forbidden palm wine. Now, some people go a little further and figure Obatala should not have any alcohol at all, which is actually not true, because in Yerba land, in Nigeria, they do give gin to Obatala. I was surprised myself when I first saw it, and my Oluo told me, "Oh no, Obatala is not barred from consuming alcohol in general. It is just the palm wine because he took a special liking to the palm wine and became intoxicated by it. So it's just palm wine. Giving Obatala gin is perfectly okay. There may be some exceptions to that rule. There are exceptions to almost any rule. But in general, alcohol is not a taboo for Obatala. It is just alcohol in the form of palm wine, which he must not consume, and in general, his devotees must not consume. Another of his taboos are dog. Now, we don't generally eat dog here in the United States. There are some places in Africa where people do consume dog, and some other parts of the world. Jokingly, people say that Chinese food here in the United States contains dog. That's really not true. Some might want to argue. That's another story. But in general, we don't consume dog over here. But for Obatala, the dog is taboo. He doesn't take dog as an offering, and his devotees wouldn't eat dog, even if that was something that we would normally consume here. The reason for Obatala not taking dog is because he developed a serious disdain for dog. In one of the early stories, when Obatala had created the heads and developed the character for humans, they would go to him to choose their character, their destiny, so they can take that destiny to Earth. And there was one man who was preparing to go to Earth. He was Oninu Rere, and he gave Obatala a gift when he went to choose his destiny, and that gift was akara, which is the bean cakes. Usually in Nigeria, they're prepared as fried bean cake balls. They look similar to hush puppies, and actually they are made with cornmeal and black-eyed peas and some other ingredients. Anyway, they're kind of sweet to the taste due to the cornmeal. Oninu Rere brought this gift of akara to Obatala, and Obatala saw them, and he really liked them, so he started just popping them in his mouth and eating. And Oninu Rere went around Obatala's shop, picking all the best things in Destiny for himself. And then he went about his way. Now, Obatala wasn't able to talk because he was so busy shoving akara down his throat that he wasn't able to respond when Oninu Rere was picking out things for his destiny. And he finally cleared his throat sometime after the man left and went on his journey to Earth. And Obatala sent his dog to catch up with the man and bring him back. Now, because the man had continued to make offerings along his way to Earth, the dog came across these offerings as he was going to get the man and bring him back. But the dog, as he came across these offerings, he ate them. And the dog was quite satisfied. The dog never returned with the man, and Obatala wanted this man. He wanted Oninurere to come back because he had taken more than his fair share of good luck, good destiny to Earth with him. And so Obatala wanted him back, and that's why he sent the dog after him. The dog, being happy, consuming the offerings along the way, he just never came back. And this got Obatala quite annoyed, and from then on he wanted nothing to do with dogs. So that's why a dog is one of Obatala's taboos. Obatala has certain other taboos. I mentioned the palm wine, I mentioned the dog. Red palm oil and black palm kernel oil are also taboos for him. Black palm kernel black palm kernel oil is actually a taboo for all Orisha, and actually it's only used in special cases. We'll get into that another time. Salt is a taboo for Obatala. Obatala generally takes his foods bland. Maize beer, which is beer made from corn, that's also a taboo for him. Obatala also does not take pig. Stale water is a taboo for him. Obatala must have fresh water. Also, Masquerade, the Egungun Masquerade, is a taboo for Obatala. So, anyone who dresses up to honor the Egungun, when they're dressed this way, they cannot enter Obatala's shrine. That's taboo for Obatala. Now, some of the preferred offerings for Obatala are snails, also chalk or white dirt, also known as efun, shea butter, and vegetables prepared with shea butter, white goat, white hen. These are things for Obatala. The white kola nut, pounded yam, and millet beer. Notice that's millet beer, not maize beer. So can't be any beer made from corn, but beer made from other grains like hops and barley, things like that, or rice beer. Those are good beers for Obatala. I must mention that here in the West, in the Western Hemisphere, in the Americas, we usually have pots that are filled with certain items for the Orisha to represent them. Some Orisha are represented in these pots in in Nigeria. However, a lot of times the Orisha are represented in a full shrine. By a full shrine, I mean like an area that you walk into. Here in the Americas, we have most of our Orisha represented in pots containing their special items, because a lot of us do not have the appropriate amount of land, property, to set up shrines that you can walk into. Especially in urban areas where we have a lot of people living in small houses or apartments, you just don't have a place to set up a shrine that you can walk into. You'd be lucky if you have one room where you can put Orisha pots. So this is why we have most of our Orisha here represented in the pots. One example is, let's say, for instance, Ogun. All right. Generally, we'll see an Ogun shrine as a cast iron pot that has a stone in it and metal objects such as knives and tools and things like that. But in Nigeria, generally you won't find Ogun represented in a pot. Rather, he is in an area, in a wooded area, and they're actually large metal objects put into the ground. And these are representations of Ogun. Where we might have a few knives and some railroad spikes and the stones just sitting in a cast iron pot, we're not going to find that in general in Nigeria. In Nigeria, you'll see an area outside, usually near a tree or bush, and you may have swords and knives stuck into the ground. You may have other large metal objects, car parts, even an engine stuck into the ground. And you may have railroad spikes and some metal tools for hunting and farming and things like that. Rather than what we find here, which is a pot with certain items in it. And the same is true of Obatala. You can go into Nigeria, but Obatala is one who will sometimes be in a pot in Nigeria. In other areas, he may have like an open shrine that you can walk into. But there will be certain items in there, whether it's an open shrine or a pot for Obatala. There'll be certain items in there that pertain to Obatala. And in the Obatala shrine, we'll find things such as the staff of Obatala called Opal Soro. And we'll have the double gong, which is like two cowbells that are welded together with a handle. That's the special bell for Obatala. And there'll be a special pot for Obatala called Awe. And that pot is where fresh water is brought as an offering to Obatala. And I think I mentioned before, using stale water for Obatala is a taboo. Obatala, you must always bring him fresh water. Uh, Obatala's grove is usually a small house which is painted in efun, the white chalk, and this is where Obatala is fed. And in the absence of such a shrine, or the absence of even a pot, the ground can be used to represent Obatala, which makes sense because Obatala used soil from the ground to create human forms. So having Obatala, or using the earth as a representation of Obatala, it makes sense. Obatala is fed in a kneeling position, so you kneel down to feed Obatala, and generally Obatala is fed in darkness. And that doesn't have to be necessarily pitch black where you can't see anything, but when Obatala is fed, the environment should not be bright. The dimmest light possible so that you can see what you're doing when you're feeding him. But his area is dark, serene, peaceful, because, as I mentioned earlier, he is an Orisha of peace and tranquility. When we seek peace of mind, a lot of times we will turn to Obatala, so that Obatala can give us peace of mind. I've even seen rituals where someone is suffering a lot of misery and they feel that their head just isn't straight because of all that they're going through. There are certain rituals that a person can go through in which Obatala is asked to mend a person's cracked head. And I've seen this and I've seen how it works. So if you're seeking peace, general peace in your life, or peace of mind, Obatala is one to turn to. This is the end of my presentation for today. We will have a little more each week of this month talking about Obatala. May not always be video, but if it's not video, there will be some text. And I will continue doing this every month, focusing on one Orisha, so that we all can be better educated about the Orisha. With that said, everyone be well and be blessed. And I will see you all next time. Taboo.